is a good one. This is a good one. I'm glad you're here. Joining me on the show, he is prolific. He is a journalist, an author, author of two really amazing books, Parole, Prison, and the Possibility of Change. And he's also the author of High Risers, and he's written for everybody. He's been in GQ, the New York Times, which we'll talk about your best friend, Rahm Emanuel, in a little bit. And he has an article in Chicago Magazine that's running right now that I think folks really pay attention to what's happening here. The article is called "How Much Sanctuary Can Chicago Really Offer?" Ben Austen, who I'm always glad to talk to, or even just see walking down the street, is joining us on the show. How you doing, man?
Hey Mario, it's always great to talk with you, to see you, everything.
Yeah. Trying to keep it together, my friend. Trying to
Yeah.
keep it together. This before we go into the sanctuary city thing, just for full disclosure, and we can get this out the way now because this is probably the most painful thing we'll talk about all day. Ben has been nice enough to Ben and his brother Jake have been nice enough to allow me to go to many White Sox games with them. They're bad. I don't know. You've been going to games way longer than me and have probably seen some of the greatest moments in the history of the franchise. As a real fan, like not a fake one, a real one. What's gonna happen this year?
Oh, it's going to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's going to be great going to games because you still can go get the cheapest seats and sit wherever and enjoy a nice park and the companion of great people. And you just don't have to really think that it's part of a larger narrative of trying to win something.
Yeah.
You just got to enjoy every day as if it's isolated.
Oh,
And that's the trick to really enjoying the White Sox at this moment.
all right. I mean, you and Jake say the same thing to me, so I'm gonna go. I didn't go to a game last year. I watched maybe 3 innings on television. I didn't listen to one radio broadcast. I was so
Yeah.
annoyed by them being so bad. But I like what they did, pardon me, in the offseason and the team they've assembled of coaches and scouts and
Yeah.
stuff. I'm hopeful that this is like one of the last bad air quotes bad years that they have, but I will take your advice under advisement and I know I'm going to one game at least opening day, so I'll be
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Not the worst.
Be
Um,
true.
yes, yeah. You have a unique relationship, and this is a small thing, but it caught my attention, and I'm pretty sure it caught yours too. You have a very unique relationship with the former mayor Rahm Emanuel, to say the
It's
least.
hard to say whether it's unique. I think he, I interacted with him as a reporter,
Hmm.
and often as a reporter, even though I'm born and raised here on the South Side, I write for the New York Times. And so when Rahm Emanuel was like, "Oh, there's this reporter from New York here," he sort of went into his kind of pugilistic mode,
Hmm.
loved to to spar with reporters, and that was kind of fun, and sort of hang out with him and to kind of mix it up. And there's something really endearing about that in some ways, that the way he wants to like get involved, and there's also something silly about it and also counterproductive. He's doing it with me as another white male, and we could think of moments when he's doing with other folks when he totally alienated them. He didn't know how to like temper that behavior.
Hmm.
Yeah, but yo, I mean, Rahm Emanuel, when he was mayor and even beyond, you know, he would leave messages, on my cell phone when like a nice article came out. When my sister-in-law won a MacArthur,
Yeah,
she got a voicemail from Rahm Emanuel.
that's
Uh,
wild.
Lori Lightfoot wasn't doing that.
No.
And I
That
just
be,
mean that there's a way of thinking about the city, and for all our mayors are mad flawed,
hmm.
and he has meant as much or more than others, and there were parts about him that were overlooked that I think are endearing in some way. I'm not saying I want him back or anything, but I'm curious about like I know he's been making some moves to try to like put himself out there that he's not done with public service. I'm curious what that's going to lead to.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to ask. He intimated, I guess it was the Chicago Rotary Club or whatever fancy place I can't get into, where he's kind of hinted at not being totally done with public service, and I can't remember who wrote the story, but they kind of took it as he was saying he wasn't done with serving in the
Yeah.
city of Chicago. To that, I ask, what say you, Ben Austin, if he were to try? And I have a feeling this field is going to be wide open with folks we haven't seen in a long time and people we've never seen before when this mayoral cycle comes around again in a couple
Oh,
years.
I don't think he means for mayor. I think he's, I don't know what it means,
Mm-hmm.
but just does it mean for governor if our governor moves on? Does it mean for something else? It might also just be one of those things. You just put it out there just in case, like I might say, I'm married, everyone, but just in case, like
No,
just to see what happens.
I know your wife. She ain't going for that. Um, the article recently, or that you just, I'm sorry, not recently, just published in Chicago Magazine, how much sanctuary can Chicago really offer on the heels of Mayor Johnson taking his trip to speak in front of Congress.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who don't really get the sanctuary city moniker that Chicago and some other cities have, and this was put on the city by Mayor Washington back in I think '87, maybe
85.
85.
85.
Okay. What does it mean, or what did it mean, and what does it mean now for Chicago to be a sanctuary city?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I'd say, Mario, is there's so much misinformation about it. All the attacks on us, Chicago, as a sanctuary city of saying, we're a sanctuary city for criminals, that we're making Chicago less safe. President Trump at his address to Congress used the word savages over and over again to talk about immigration, and he showcased violent crime by that happened by people who were here who were undocumented. Our law in no way prevents law enforcement or any city official from working with a criminal matter. That is so important to clarify, and every news outlet should be saying this, that being here undocumented is a civil matter. It's a civil offense, not a criminal offense. If ICE shows up with a warrant for somebody who committed a crime, CPD, city officials will work with them to arrest that person. It's only in the matter of these civil cases. So when there's serious crime, Trump talking all this nonsense about immigrants eating pets and traffickers and all this other stuff. If there's truly a serious offense, ICE shows up with a warrant, we're working with them. What our law does is that and it's actually called the Welcoming City Ordinance. It's careful not to call itself sanctuary because that could be misleading.
Mm-hmm.
And that in all these civil cases and all these civil matters of people being here, we're not going to help the federal government do what is a federal job, which is immigration enforcement. And yeah, I think that's just. I wish every news outlet was specifying this difference between criminal activity and a civil offense.
I want to read an excerpt from your article, if you don't mind. I'm not trying to steal the article from anyone. I want you to go to Chicago Magazine, buy a magazine, and read this yourself. But I think this is really important in this conversation. You wrote, if Chicago were in a Republican-dominated state, it might be a, quote, welcoming city, quote, end quote, in name only. States legally have far more authority over their own municipalities than the federal government does, but Chicago's policies are bolstered by the 2017 Illinois Trust Act, which also prohibits state operators from collaborating with ICE. That isn't to say Chicago's bulwarks are impenetrable. ICE, for instance, can identify some undocumented immigrants here through law enforcement back channels. When Chicago police officers make an arrest, they upload fingerprints to an FBI database to check for outstanding warrants and criminal history. A 2008 law gave ICE full access to FBI data, and it can match the fingerprints with any immigration records in its own system and use that information to make arrests. Trump is also trying to coerce local compliance by holding over Chicago's head the billions of dollars in federal grants that the city receives each year to help pay for law enforcement, mass transit, and roads. I'm asking you, Ben, if it didn't work the first time, the withholding of funds, that is, can it happen this go round? And what can the city or state do to halt that and stop Trump from making that
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah, great question, Mario. And just to emphasize this too, that what we do is totally legal and protected by the US Constitution. The federal government is not allowed to commandeer local municipalities to carry out federal law. That's protected by the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. Uh, and so we're not doing anything that's illegal here. We're actually doing something that's constitutional, and the federal government is trying to do something that's unconstitutional. So then your question of like, Trump tried this in his first administration to pressure us and twist our arms into helping the ICE and with threats of withholding federal grants, which we rely on billions of those to run our city. And it went through the courts, and the courts also affirmed that trying to withhold funds to make us do to serve the federal government, they say, was also unconstitutional. Um, could that work again? Yeah, man. I mean, they're gonna go at it, and now that if it goes up to the Supreme Court again, is this Supreme Court maybe likely to overturn precedent because they're more Trump appointees? Possibly. In the ideology of states' rights is historically a conservative one, that states are independent of the federal government. That doesn't matter with this administration, of course. There's no real ideology. It's all over the place. It's just like power and trying to silence dissent. And the Trump administration has already made a move to move the Small Business Association, a federal office, away from Chicago, so it took away jobs that way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's going to be ways that they try to punish us, to try to coerce us. Um, and there are going to be many efforts. This is going to court. They're going to try to withhold funds. I mean, we just know that's the case. They're doing that all over the place. So there are going to be lawsuits.
It's in the best interest of Mayor Brandon Johnson, considering all that's going on around him, independent of this. Would you say, it's in the best interest of this mayor to fight until he can't fight anymore to retain the sanctuary city status?
100%. Yeah. I mean, these are our values. And it also is, it's a constitutional separation of states' rights, municipal rights, and the federal government. And like I said, as much as the rhetoric is of sort of making it this more dangerous, that just isn't true. So we're not endangering the city because of this. Actually, in fact, this sort of not having sanctuary laws, the research has shown, makes cities more dangerous because people who are afraid to like report crimes to the police, or to go to the police, we're endangered more. Yeah, I mean, we have like basic know your rights campaigns in Chicago. Activist groups and community groups are doing this along with the city. And one of the reasons they're very effective is because because ICE rarely shows up with a warrant at somebody's house. And so you actually don't have to let them in. They're searching for people who have done civil offenses. They don't have warrants.
Right.
So it just shows sort of the essentially the lie that this is always about felonies and serious crimes.
And I also want to just point out something that I guess just came across maybe in the last half hour, we'll say. The Justice Department sent a letter to Mayor Johnson about alleged anti-Semitism on campuses. So it's not just a sanctuary city thing. They're on this city and this mayor really hard.
Yeah. No, and the anti-Semitism thing, man, I mean,
yeah, that's wild.
here I'm talking also as a Jewish person.
Mm-hmm.
That's not in my name. Meaning, this kind of anti-Semitism they're claiming, which is like, it's like something out of like the 1950s Red Scare. Instead of saying communism, they're saying anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about anti-Semitism. They're using this as some scare tactic, some idea to silence dissent and to punish, so-called opponents. It's incredibly undemocratic. It's authoritarian. It's scary. Uh, it's not good for the Jews.
Yeah. Um, I a few months ago, this past summer, this radio station, WLPNLP, by the way, we're talking to Ben Austin. WLPNLP covered the Democratic National Convention. Bill Ayers was here in our building, and he walked up to me and he goes, "Hey, man, make sure you mention that they closed Stateville. Make sure you mention that they closed Stateville. Whatever you do tonight, make sure you mention that, or that they're closing it. They hadn't closed it at that moment. It's now closed. You've worked very hard in the effort to have reforms, prison reform. Um, how, knowing how much work you put in um, with your book, and just I've seen you at many places doing stuff, advocating for the rights of these cats to get let go if they don't need to be in jail, and et cetera. What was your initial feeling when Stateville closed?
Yeah, so at Stateville, because it's actually the closest prison to Chicago, there are many sort of groups that were doing programming there, including I'm part of one where I was teaching in Stateville.
Mm-hmm.
And we developed a cohort of guys who got undergraduate degrees and advanced degrees, had developed a think tank. We were able to assist them in many ways. They're pushing legislation to bring parole back in the state. The closure of Stateville scattered all those guys across the state. Now, Stateville itself was essentially uninhabitable. It was literally killing them. You couldn't drink the water. There's mold on the walls. Guys are coughing. They're sick. One guy died in prison this last year.
Mm-hmm.
Was one of several that happened recently. So the place had to close. So it's not, there's losses with that too, about, like I said, human resources and connections. And then there's this other question, like, I think Bill Ayers, whom I love dearly, who's advocating for, and I am too, it's like, we have to think about what replaces it. Tearing down a place like Stateville, which has been around for over 100 years, is important, but not if you just build a modern Stateville. Um, we're down from a high in this state of our prison population of about 49,000. We're down to about 30,000.
Mm.
We don't really need new prisons. What we really need is fewer prisons. I mean, even getting away from like ideas of abolition.
Mm-hmm.
We need fewer prisons. We also need, if we are going to lock folks up, we also need something closer to Chicago. And I'm not trying to contradict myself. I'm just talking about how complex this is.
Right.
That these guys who are from the Chicago area are now down in like Pinckneyville, which is like, 5 hours south, or they're in Hill, which is, 3.5 hours west. They're just scattered all over. It makes it difficult for family. It makes it difficult for friends and advocates to work with them. So we want something. We don't want to spend all our money on building more prisons.
Yeah.
We want to do something smarter. So we have this opportunity here, which would be great if the state actually took to rethink some of the ways we punish.
Ben, listen, man, I promise you, there will never be a time where I do not want to have Ben Austin talking to me about stuff, whatever it is.
From the White Sox,
yeah, to prison reform.
Which those things, there's a pipeline, I think, from the White Sox to prison they talk about, right?
Yes, sir.
We just sort of showed it.
Listen, man,
that father-son who beat up the Royals first base.
Oh my God, the Leguee family. Yeah. They live in White Sox lore forever. Ben Austin does amazing work. He is that dude. If you see his byline on anything, read it. He has a story currently in Chicago Magazine, and the story is called "If My iPad Would Decide to Act Correctly: How Much Sanctuary Can Chicago Really Offer?" It's riveting, and there's so much to talk about. Time won't allow me to ask you a zillion questions, but I do appreciate you taking some time out of your very busy day to come on the show. My best to the wife and the children. I see the young man's fro is starting to populate.
He's got twists now, kid.
Oh.
But I appreciate you, Mario. Yeah, always appreciate you. You're if you're the mayor of Hyde
Oh
Park,
God.
I'm voting for you. I'm a supporter.
Let me tell you
I'm
something.
a lobbyist and
Be-
a supporter.
Before I go, if they ever have an election and my name is on it, don't vote for me. Just let it ride, man.
Unelected, unelected official.
There you go. Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate you, man. Thanks a
All
lot.
right, my man. Take care.
Right on. Ben Austen, everybody. He has written in GQ, the New York Times, uh, uh, Chicago Magazine, you name it, he's done it, and his work is real. He's an amazing, amazing, amazing writer, and everybody can benefit from reading his great work. We come back with more music, some sad news.